With that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back, and I thank the witnesses again for being here.
Thank the gentleman. The prime witness that we had invited, Mr. Rhodes, from the White House, has declined to come before the committee. We're disappointed in his failure to appear. Chair also notes that contingent upon Mr. Rhodes appearing, an invitation to appear was extended to the Honorable Tom Cotton, United States Senator from the state of Arkansas. This was done at a request of the White House. Given that Mr. Rhodes had refused to appear before the committee today, the distinguished senator from Arkansas is also excused.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, gentleman from South Carolina.
I have an inquiry.
Yes.
Is Mr. Hanna here?
Yes.
Well, then why didn't Mr. Cummings ask him the questions? He'll have a chance to ask Mr. Hanna whatever questions he wants to ask him. We don't have a chance to ask Mr. Rhodes the questions we want to ask because he didn't bother to show up.
Chairman
Mr. Hanna did.
But Chairman Yield,
yes,
I can say whatever I want to say in my opening statement.
Yes, you can. It just needs to be fair. That's my point. Just be fair about it. You can say what you want.
Gentlemen will state his inquiry.
I just want to know if he was here.
He's here.
Tell me he is.
Take the gentleman.
Okay.
And Mr. Rhodes is not here. I would also note that the Democrats were free and usually, almost always, in my experience, invite a Democratic witness. But there is no Democratic witness today because you didn't invite one.
Chairman Yield.
Sure.
Chairman, you know for a fact that we got less than the notice that's required in the rules. We did not object and went on with the hearing. You know that.
I disagree with the timing issue that you suggest.
You gave us the required time?
Yes.
I disagree with you.
Okay. We'll sort that out. We have a good working relationship, Mr. Cummings and I. But
Parliamentary inquiry.
The gentleman from South Carolina.
Does the executive privilege apply to media interviews or only to appearances before Congress?
I don't know the full answer to that, but I believe they're free to talk to whoever they want to in the media, but they did claim in Mr. Eggleston's letter to claim executive privilege.
So is that a yes or a no? Does it apply when you're being interviewed by the New York Times or ABC or CBS, or just when members of Congress want to ask questions?
Evidently when members of Congress.
I thank the chairman for that clarification.
So I think it is eminently fair to ask why Sidney Blumenthal had unfettered access to you, Madam Secretary, with whatever he wanted to talk about, and there's not a single solitary email to or from you to or from Ambassador Stevens. I think that is fair, and we'll take that up next
Gentleman
round.
yield. Gentleman yield.
Sure.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, you've made several inaccurate statements over the past month as you have tried to defend against multiple Republican admissions that the Select Committee has been wasting millions of tax dollars to damage Secretary Clinton's bid for president. On Sunday, you made another inaccurate statement during your appearance on Face the Nation, and it's being taken up here, and this is the relevance. Here's what you said, and I quote, "There are other folks who may have equities in her emails, and there may be other entities who are evaluating her emails. But my interest in them is solely making sure that I get everything I'm entitled to so that I can do my job. The rest of it, classification, Clinton Foundation, you name it, I have zero interest in it, which is why you haven't seen me send a subpoena related to it or interview a single person other than Brian Pagliano, because I need to know that the record is complete." And I'm going back to the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I'm waiting. Chairman, let me finish. I'm waiting on you. I've been very patient.
Coming. Just wait.
I'm waiting on the inaccurate statement.
I'm getting there. Mr. Chairman.
Well, we got to take a break.
Your statement was, well, it's not going to take long. You took up 4 minutes over, so let me have 3.
I've let everybody go over, including you, Mr. Congress.
Thank you very much. You issued a subpoena to Sidney Blumenthal on May 19th, 2015, compelling him to appear for a deposition on June 16, 2015. You issued this subpoena unilaterally without giving the Select Committee members the opportunity to debate or vote on it. You sent 2 armed marshals to serve the subpoena on Mrs. Blumenthal's wife at their home without having ever sent him a request to participate voluntarily, which he would have done. Then, Mr. Chairman, you personally attended Mr. Blumenthal's deposition. You personally asked him about the Clinton Foundation, and you personally directed your staff to ask questions about the Clinton Foundation, which they did more than 50 times. Now, these facts directly contradict the statements you made on national television this last Sunday.
No, sir. With all due respect, they do not. We just heard email after email after email about Libya and Benghazi that Sidney Blumenthal sent to the Secretary of State. I don't care if he sent it by Morse code, carrier pigeon, smoke signals. The fact that he happened to send it by email is irrelevant. What is relevant is that he was sending information to the Secretary of State. That is what's relevant. Now, with respect to the subpoena, if he'd bothered to answer the telephone calls of our committee, he wouldn't have needed a subpoena.
Would the gentleman yield?
I'll be happy to, but you need to make sure the entire record is correct, Mr. Cummings.
And that's exactly what I want to do.
Well, then go ahead.
I'm about to tell you. I move that we put into the record the entire transcript of Sidney Blumenthal. We're going to release the emails. Let's do the transcript. That way the world can see it.
Well, we didn't.
The motion has been seconded.
Well, we're not going to take that up at a hearing. We'll take that up in a business meeting.
I've consulted with the parliamentarian, and they have informed us that we have a right to a recorded vote on that motion. We want, you ask for the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Well, that's what we want to have. Let the world see it.
Why is it that you only want Mr. Blumenthal's transcript released? Why don't you want the survivors? The survivors, even their names?
Let me tell you something. No,
you want that released?
Let me tell you something. Right now,
the only one you've asked for is Sidney Blumenthal. That's the only one you've asked for. That and Miss Mills.
Cheryl Mills.
That's not true.
No, that's 2 out of 54. Now, if you want to ask for some fact witnesses,
we asked for a recorded vote on the Blumenthal. You said from the beginning we want the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Why don't we just put the entire transcript out there and let the world see it? What do you have to hide?
These are the only emails that you have released. And the fairness to Mr. Blumenthal and to the American people, in the interest of a complete record, if you're going to release his emails, release his transcript where he has a chance to give the context of those emails.
Well, you keep referring to Blumenthal emails. I would hasten to remind both of you, the only reason we have Blumenthal emails is because he emailed the Secretary of State. Those are her emails. That's why they were released. They're not Blumenthal's emails, and she wanted all of her emails released. She's been saying since March, I want the entire world to see my emails. Well, Sidney Blumenthal's emails are part of that. So here's what I'll do. I'll be happy to talk to the parliamentarian, because the parliamentarian told me that your motion actually would not be in order for a hearing. But at the latest, we'll take a vote. Then the first week we are back, after this week, we'll have a business meeting. We can take up Mr. Blumenthal's transcript. We can take up whatever other transcripts you want. And while we're there, we can also take up the 20-some-odd outstanding discovery requests that we have to different executive branch entities. Why don't we just take all of it up then?
Mr. Chairman, the allegations that have been made against him are refuted by his own testimony. In the interest of not having...
That's your opinion, Adam.
Well, if you disagree, then release the transcripts.
What allegation, Adam?
Why conceal the transcripts, even if the motion were not in order? You have the power to release them. You have the power to say
I'll tell you why, because I'm not going to release one transcript of someone who knows nothing about Libya by his own admission, while people who risk their lives, you have no interest in their story getting out. You don't want the 18 DS agents. You don't want the CIA agents. The only transcripts you want released are Miss Mills and Sidney Blumenthal.
Chairman,
so we'll take all of this up in November.
The only person you were interested in asking about during your entire questioning was Sidney Blumenthal. If you're so interested in him, release the transcript. You selectively released his emails. They're the only witness you've done that for. So you're asking, why are we only asking for his transcript?
I'm going to ask the gentleman from California to please do a better job of characterizing. These are not Sidney Blumenthal's emails. These are Secretary Clinton's emails. And I'll tell you what, if you think you've heard about Sidney Blumenthal so far, wait till the next round.
Sure,
with that, we're adjourned.
Take him up on. I would love to go see what's happening in Baltimore. I suspect, Mr. Chairman, that it is, at least on a larger scale, similar to what was happening in my own hometown, which is why I started a drug court in 2000. And in addition to that drug court, we started a drug court for expectant mothers who were using controlled substances during the course of their pregnancy, because I do believe getting them off drugs is infinitely preferable to incarceration in nonviolent cases. I would also say this, Mr. Chairman, and to my friend from Maryland, there is no joy like going to a graduation ceremony for those who have concluded drug court successfully. I have had folks that I prosecuted stop me in the grocery store to show me the certificate from their graduation, and they were prouder of that than anything you or I could have ever accomplished in our careers. I would just counsel folks that we're still going to need prisons, so I'd be a little reluctant to close all the prisons as we open up drug courts, because the gentleman from Maryland is right. I'd say about half the crime we saw for 16 years, drugs and or alcohol, were at the root of that. And there was one addict in particular, Mr. Chairman, who took a hammer to the older couple that lived next to him and beat them. They were in bed, asleep, in the middle of the night. He broke in to rob them, and he beat them with a hammer where they were unrecognizable as humans. That was the pathologist's description, not mine. And then he raped the female victim post-mortem. He was an addict, but we're going to need to hang on to those prisons, Mr. Chairman, in addition to the drug courts. And I would be happy to go to Maryland with my friend to see the work that they're doing there, and I would invite him down to Spartanburg. Drug court can save people's lives and get them off. I just hope they get off before they do acts of violence against the innocent public, because the addicts sometimes leave a wake of violence and mayhem in the wake of their addiction. With that, I would yield back.
Would gentlemen yield, please, just for 1 second?
Be happy to.
First of all, I want to thank you for agreeing to come to Baltimore. I agree to go to South Carolina. I'd be happy to. And just one thing, Mr. Chairman, I agree with you. We have very effective drug courts in Maryland. And I know what you're talking about. When one of my first cases was a death penalty case, early in my career, where a young man hammered his grandmother to death, and he was on drugs. So I get it. I get it. I'm just trying to, like I said, I think there are different categories here of folk, and I swear, I just wish we could catch them early, like you said, because I've seen some really bad stuff. So I think the thing is trying to figure out a balance here. And even when you figure out the balance, you're probably going to still find people falling through the cracks. But I guess we have to use our best science and best judgment